With home prices and consumer confidence rising and a Chicago purchasing managers number coming in pretty strong, what does it all mean for the economy going forward? Joining us now, Jerome Martis, Director of Consumer Research for the Thomson Reuters Proprietary Research Group. Shari Olefson, real estate attorney, CNBC's Steve Leisman. Steve Leisman, I want to turn to you because the thing nobody's talking about is the Chicago PMI report, solidly in the mid to high 50s.
Yeah.
Business is profitable, they're manufacturing, and they're buying into capital goods, Steve. Tell me what's wrong with this picture.
Nothing. I think the capital goods story is likely to remain a good one, Larry. And if I could just sort of comment about all three pieces of data we got this morning. One, Case-Shiller on the upside. That's good news, though that might reflect some of the first-time homebuyer tax credit in there. I will say that it looks like we've settled down, but we're not crashing through the bottom here. And that is what today settles for good news, Larry.
Okay.
All right.
You know, Jerome, let me ask you, how do you interpret this data? Case-Shiller, consumer confidence coming in a little better than expected here. What does this mean for the economy as we move forward into the fall?
Well, August same-store sales are expected to be up 2.4%, which is a pretty healthy number. But our research at Thomson Reuters shows that once the students hit back school in the month of September, they're going to start eyeing what their classmates are wearing, and that peer pressure is going to kick in, and they're going to hit the malls to buy the latest fashion items.
But overall, in terms of the economy, obviously retail being a critical part of that, but in terms of the overall economy, how do you interpret this data? What does it mean for the future?
Well, it's definitely positive news. July consumer spending was stronger. Consumer confidence is an improvement. However, the one economic indicator which is key here is the job market. Until the job number starts to improve, that's when we're going to see consumer spending start to speed up and heal up the economy recovery. Though that's the one economic indicator that has the highest correlation with consumer spending.
Shari Olefson, for a note of realism, let me ask you, Case-Shiller up 4%, 4.2% year over year. But Shari, the monthly numbers on existing home sales, very, very bad. Inventories very high. 12 and a half months worth of inventory, Shari. Does this mean, in your judgment, that home prices, Case-Shiller or otherwise, are destined to fall in a second round of declines?
You hit it right on point, Larry. They have to. There's no other way for them to go. We've got 12 and a half months worth of inventory, plus another 7 million estimated in shadow inventory with the lenders. And don't forget, those units sell for about 27% under market value. So in the future, we can expect to see the Case-Shiller numbers going down. And don't forget that these numbers released this morning reflect sales that were made 2 or 3 months ago, when supposedly the homebuyer tax credit was still keeping the prices up. Because remember, those sales don't have to close now until September. So I'm actually surprised. Everyone's saying that, you know, the Case-Shiller numbers came out better than expected. They're actually a little more sluggish than I had expected.
Steve Leisman, are they sluggish? Do you agree with Shari's assessment that home prices are destined to fall as the goofy home buyers tax credit, National Realtors, National Home Builders Association tax credit expires?
I'm not an expert on the housing market, Larry, but here's what I think is that we had a similar situation with what happened in the auto market, where there was a cash for clunkers incentive program from the government. It caused auto sales to shoot up, and then they shot back down, then they leveled off at a pretty good level. I would say at the moment the jury should be out until we see how this settles back down in the wake of the home buyer tax credit. I think the numbers where we're at right now, what is like 3.5 million units at an annual rate, are ridiculously low, and that is not the level where they're going to settle out at. I know that maybe, 6 or 7 million at the top was too high, but somewhere between there, I would think we have room to grow up to from the 3.5 million annual unit rate.
Well, and our Diana Oleg keeps pointing out that 14% of all mortgages right now are either delinquent or in foreclosure, and that can't have a very good effect on things. Shari, does this mean, given the pessimistic outline that you were just describing for us, that we're actually heading for a double dip in housing?
Well, you know, here's the way I prefer to look at it, Trish. I think that when we look at the Case-Shiller numbers, we're looking at numbers from last month, from last year. Those are still sort of funky, nuclear-type impacted numbers. We really need to look at a normal baseline, which was the last time that our market was normal, which was around 2003. We're back in line with that baseline. And then we really need to look at normal expectations. I mean, before the 1990s, real estate was appreciating at about 1% a year, and then about 4% a year.
How do we get back to that, Shari?
But I think if we want to... Well, that's what we're doing right now. We have to. The key is going to be unloading this inventory, keeping people from walking away from their homes, and working on that unemployment.
Jerome,
let me just point out, though, for the record, though, the 03 annual rate for existing home sales was around 5.2 million. It's not at the current rate, which is 3.8 8 million. So we have a long way to go to get back to even the normal before the bubble.
Well, let's not forget, incomes
right.
are rising.
The absorption's not there. The absorption's not there. The inventory is still way out of whack. But in terms of the values, the prices, because don't forget, we've got 112 million units.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about home sales, we're not just talking about the real estate market. We're talking about personal wealth.
And this affects people's spending, does it not, Jerome?
We got to get out. Jerome, real quick, last word. You got it.
Well, our quarterly same-store sales index is looking for a 2.2% growth, and it's expected to drop for Q3. Consumer spending, as usual, in Q3 it slows down. However, it's expected to pick up in Q4 on top of a positive same-store sales last year. So towards the end of the year, we're going to see the consumer come back.
All right,
Fantastic.
Jerome, thank you. Thank you very much, Shari. And as always, Steve Leisman.